Okay, this is Carla. She's my sister and she's my guest. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about managerial communication focused on team and groups. So first I'm going to have everybody write down an experience and how they think with a manager or admin that they think could have been improved and why it was a bad experience. So take a minute and do so. And when you're done with that, I'm going to have you fold it up and leave it on your table. We'll come back to it. So, the idea of managerial communication is to provide a better understanding of communication as a team and for managerial staff. This topic is for improvement of the company by the manager's treatment of the employees. So, managerial communication is a complex idea to our society because people don't understand how to communicate in a work setting because they may lack communication in a regular setting. And it's becoming more and more important for us to understand why it's important. So we're going to start with one-on-one communication. According to the Management Review in 1981, a study was done to get a better understanding of one-on-one managerial communication. Though it seems very out of date, it is still very relevant. It was just becoming important at the time that they did this study, and it is still very important, but now we are beginning to have a better understanding of one-on-one communication and why it has become important. So they had their results from the one-on-one communication were the employees began to think more creatively and they had a clear and precise communication and cared about how their message was understood. And they became more agreeable with others. And this is important to focus on the positive side of it and the effects that it makes because this is manager to employee. And this one-on-one communication can also be manager to manager, but I wanted to focus more on manager to employee because so many things can be misunderstood, and we have to focus on the positive ways that it can be changed and improved. And this is kind of what that study did. It showed us how it was improved and why they did what they did. The next next important topic is group communication. And this one can be a little bit confusing because group and team seem so similar. So group, according to Business Communication for Success, groups are a primary context for interaction with the business community. But if you continue to read, it tells us that it is more of communication between a superior and a subordinate. So that would be like a manager to an employee or a group of employees, not necessarily admin to manager. So it is the view from a superior to subordinates. So a group is defined as a function and a development viewpoint by the relationships within them. So groups are based on how big or small it can be and who is leading the group. So we're focused on the managers leading the groups, but a group is at least 3 or more employees. There can be small groups and large groups depending on the company and the managers leading it. And it is important to learn how to communicate in a group because it is easier to upset or hurt people because you're sharing group ideas. You're interacting with a lot of people, and it becomes very important back to one-on-one communication, being able to communicate person to person, but then you have to be able to communicate with multiple people. So that's why group communication becomes so important. The next is managerial. Oh, managerial communication in teams. So, according to Wagman and Hickman in 2010, they defined management team as a group of individuals, each of whom has a personal responsibility for leading some part of an organization. And this is important to see because manager to manager also becomes difficult because we don't understand that it's still the one-on-one communication, but it's like having all the cooks in the kitchen and they're all trying to decide what the meal is. So you're not going to be able to agree as easily because they're used to running their own department their own way, and they have to come in and be a group and decide for as a whole what the company needs. And so that's when managerial communication becomes important as a team because the team is focused on the higher ranking employees deciding what is best for the company. So that's why we have to sit down and understand what team communication is. And if you look back, group communication is important because it starts the lower levels, which are also equally as important in what the company does. So every piece of the puzzle is important, one-on-one, group, and team. It's just how you discuss and learn things as a group. So what we're going to do is focus on the what the teams can do. So a group is going to do smaller things, but a team is going to focus on, like it says here, task performance, individual well-being of the company and the growth of the company and the added value that they can have. And this is what makes the company, how you perform, and that's really the most important part of what you can make a change in the company and how you can do it. So I'm going to go back to one-on-one communication real quick. One-on-one is the easiest to understand in a sense of you communicate with people every day. And that is how you learn to do all the others in how you talk to people in a group that are on your same level or a superior who's on a level above. And the team is the main goal is to learn to be able to communicate with those who are all on your level but have their own area. So how we can improve managerial communication is by simply understanding what managerial communication is and why it's important. If we understand the subject, then we can treat it with more respect and understanding. And as it says here, you identify the communication needs, develop the communication strategy, develop the communication schedule, and implement and control the continued adjustments. And it's a flow. So you have to be able to flow as a team, group, or person to person. And that's how you can improve managerial communication as a whole. So we're going to look at what you wrote down at the beginning. And after learning all of these things, I would like you to write down what you could have done or what you think management could have done to change what happened and how you would go further on. So if you'll take a minute and do so, then we'll come back and look at it and we'll wrap it all up. So managers have all this responsibility, and as students we don't really understand what they have to run and how much responsibility they have. So to make a difference, we have to begin to try to understand the responsibility that is had. But it is also important and imperative for superiors to understand that subordinates don't understand what it's don't understand yet, and that it's very hard to be a new employee. So everybody has to become more understanding as a whole to make a difference. Managers have a lot of jobs that aren't necessarily set in their employee manual. Like they don't, it doesn't say this is your job, and there's a lot of other things that we don't see that they do. So to change this communication, we have to try to understand that they have other jobs that aren't necessarily in their job title. And we, as an employee or subordinate or even admin, have to understand that those things happen and we have to make whatever we can better about that.